Today
Yeah,
the presentation is in our
Hello.
offline group. We hope you have a good time with us.
Sure, Areej. Yeah.
Hello, sorry. I'm at work. Sorry for the noisy background.
That's all right. Thank you for your time and effort. Thanks for joining the meeting. And you're gonna lead the meeting, or you are busy with the phone call?
It's okay.
So today we have our agenda on the screen, and then we can have to go and start presenting. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yes.
Stop sharing.
Yes. Today we have a 4 topic. Okay. Okay, let me share my screen.
Sure.
I hope you have a good time with us.
Sounds good.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes,
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Start with the objective for review goals into interviewing skills that will facilitate interaction with an older adult. The introduction, how do you introduce yourself and how do you address the older adult? A condition for the geriatric interview must be first the privacy, environment of the room, ability to see and hear provider, and also compensation for patient disabilities. The modification for the hearing impaired person, you have to use slow, clear speech, allow adequate time for the patient to respond, and assure adequate lighting to allow for simultaneous lip reading, and also maintain visual contact face-to-face to allow for lip reading. And because most hearing loss is a high frequency hearing loss, you have to avoid, or the high pitch voice should be deepened. Modification also with an interpreter. The interpreter versus the translator. The interpreter should be non-family member where patient should be obtaining a family member, friend, as modification and other assumption should be obtained by interview.
Sorry, Areej, we cannot hear you like clearly. I'm not sure.
I think we cannot hear you clearly. Yes, sorry.
You can check the connection, Areej, or
Looks like we lost Dr. Areej's connection. I'm not sure. We will give her a second. If she cannot join, we will go ahead with the second presentation and present maybe, she will present maybe later.
Sound good.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Hello, Dr. Areej. We're here.
I'm sorry. I think there's a problem
We
with
understand the word.
internet. Give me a second. Sorry for that.
No problem.
Okay. And modification in interviewing people with dementia. A family and significant other should be interviewed separately wherever possible. And when possible, elder person permission should be obtained prior to separate interview. In a geriatric social history, we ask a lot of questions about social support and also who do they live with, any contact with family and friends, the type, frequency of interaction, and who visits. And also should ask about the activities, hobbies, where do they go, and if any significant losses, that is as function abilities, lifestyle, and also we should ask about the plan for the future. And you should also ask about the current financial status, the insurance, formal support, like a home care agency or involved agency. What is the 3P? Also, in when we take a history, the presenting issue, we should address the presenting issue, precipitating issue, and the perpetuating issue. Presenting issue, why the person here? What do they want? Is it here for routine healthcare or a new problem or for new provider? And if the problem, is it the problem for the patient or the caregiver? The precipitating issue, what is their previous experience with the healthcare or with other MDs? How have they negotiated the healthcare system in the past? The perpetuating issue, what makes health practice and attitude hard to change, and what do you want? The style of inquiry, repeat or rephrase, and observe theme, shift in topics, evasiveness, follow up on inconsistencies, and tolerate silence. And we can ask question, open-ended question, who do you live with? Multiple choice, which of these do you want to focus on today? And also close-ended question like how many drinks do you have a day? Also, the listening is important part. Observe hidden or unspoken clues, interrupting, using silence, and double tasking, documenting while talking or listening. The challenges with the elderly history, or when you're taking history from elderly, the conflict, the losing contempors, and dual interview and doorknob problems. What do our patient want? To establish and maintain relationship with medical staff, to maintain a sense of control over their bodies and lives, to involve important people in their life, in their health care, or to defer to other or maintain privacy and independence from other, to have their need and fear heard, to have information about their health, including prognosis as requested. If there is a joint treatment plan, we discuss about the impact of past or present role, the education, employment and value, and also healthcare belief, the relationship and current support system, reaction coping style, and also resources, financial, insurance, short and long-term plan. Reflection and review of the interview. From an impression, from verbal and non-verbal clue of patient, and also where the patient need understood, where you understood, what the reason for the visit completed, and also we can further negotiate needed with the patient. What is a good patient interaction? Balance the need for a good quality of care and good quality of life, and determine patient preference, diagnosis, and treatment option. Engage in joint treatment plan, accomplish with empathy for challenges of aging and our common humanity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Areej, for your presentation. Had a lot of important points to pay attention to when dealing with this vulnerable population. Second, we will be presenting how to write a manuscript. I will be the first presenter. I would like to share my screen.
Yes.
Before we jump, I'd like to thank you so much, Dr. Areej, for the brief and concise and excellent presentation. Thank you so much. So I just want to jump in because it's an important topic, and we don't teach medical students or a lot about how to deal with patients, older patients specifically. So Areej highlighted very important areas. So the communication is very important when you're talking to older patients. So what I teach my students is, when you see your patient in their homes, in the clinic, in my case, I see them in nursing home, I want to ask them what their concerns, because they can come to you with a problem because the family says they don't sleep well or they don't do that, but for the patient, it might not be problem number one of their own concerns. So I ask them, what's the concern for you? And then I incorporate, if the family or other resources get more problem list, then I can jump into the rest of the talk. So number two, as Areej mentioned, the communication, when you talk slow, you make sure they understand you, as well as you understand them. If they have dentures, and the speech might not be as clear, so you can ask them to repeat the question or repeat the concerns, or they can talk about it furthermore, explaining what exactly their question or concern. Bear in mind that they might have some hearing problems. So one of the things you want to notice is if the hearing aid around them or they are wearing it. If they have glasses, are they wearing the glasses, or it's on the table beside them? So there are certain things you want to work on. Reid mentioned the social aspect. So we know you get good history, but what are the supporting systems for the patient who are there for to help if they need the help? And do they understand that they have these resources for them? One of the things that also I want to share with you is how you contact the patient eye to eye, the eye level. I'm going to just share these screens with you. So this is, let's say, you can see this screen, right? It's Obama with a kid, and then Obama with another kid. Look at the eye contact. He's not standing, and the kid is standing. But they have very good eye contact. Compare this to in the UK, the princess there. They talk to the kids when they are sitting perfectly on their knees. If you compare this to a physician talking to a patient who is sitting in a wheelchair with a distance, the information may not get there 100% from either side. If the patient is talking or the doctor is talking. A better way is to be close so they can hear you. More if you lean or bend yourself. And the best is to sit down eye to eye. If there is no chair, for instance, you want to hold their hands or be on your knees and sitting, maybe in this situation, then you can convey the message or you can receive the message across from the patient. So these are some of the important when we talk to all the others. We want to see what are the limitations in communication and how we can overcome these limitations. So thank you so much again, Areej and the team.
Thank you, Dr. Nader.
Asma, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Nader. I'll show my screen.
Yeah.
Okay, you're able to see it?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, go ahead, Asma.
Okay, today we will be presenting how to write a manuscript. First, let's discuss why is good writing important. So science is complex, but the writing used to describe it need to be good writing and simple writing. It has to have high quality, simple writing that increases the chance of acceptance for publication, increases the impact of a manuscript in the research community, and it will also accelerate understanding and acceptance of the research. It will increase the faith of readers in quality of research, and poorly written manuscripts, complicated manuscripts will annoy readers. It will affect their understandings, peer reviewers and general editors, and hinder their understanding of the complicated scientific concept. So what before we jump into selecting a topic or anything, when we write a manuscript, we want journals to accept it. So before doing that, we need to know what do journal editors want. So journal editors evaluate submissions and consider peer reviewers' advice. It's the journal editors who make the final decision about what gets published. Therefore, it's important to know how they make the decision. Journal editors want to publish good quality science that is of interest to their readers. They often must decide between many high quality manuscripts. So your submission is more likely to be accepted if it describes research that advances the field, is carefully prepared and formatted, and it uses a clear and concise language, and it follows ethical standards. So before you begin, you need to formulate a plan. First, you have to have a study design, a reference manager, and choose a target journal. I would also add to that, since most of our manuscripts that we've been producing here in the fellowship has been observational studies, I would add also to check once you choose a topic, to check if you have enough resources or enough studies available, so you can make, for example, a literature review. Okay, for study design, you must have a good study design to get published results. When designing an experiment, you will need to decide what is your hypothesis or research question, what are the aims of your study, what are the best methods for achieving this aim, and do you have the necessary resources to carry out your method? Which positive and negative controls will you use? And if you have required ethics, regulatory permissions, for example, if your experiment will have human subject, you will probably need approval from your institution, from the institution review board. Will your experiment have enough statistical power to give useful results? Is your sample size large enough to draw a valid conclusion? Which statistical test will you use for your analysis? And if you're not sure, consult a statistician. They can provide you with expert advice that may save you a lot of time. Okay, for reference manager or reference formatting softwares, we have couple applications, software application like BibTeX, EndNote, Mendeley, Papers, and Zotero, for example. It makes it easy to recognize and format citation. They can also assist with managing libraries containing citation, PDF and images files. This will allow you to organize important manuscripts by subject and search your library using keywords. This will also help you remember to appropriately cite manuscript that you have read. And when using a reference manager, make sure you have the correct style file for your target journal. Formatting references using a reference manager, the style file is very simple. You can find specific instruction or formatted reference and style files on this journal, and also the journal submission guidelines that you're going to submit to. Tips for finding the right journal. Submitting a manuscript to unsuitable journal is a common mistake and can cause a journal editor to reject the manuscript before peer review. Choosing a relevant journal makes it more likely that your manuscript will be accepted. Some factors to consider are the topics of the journal that the journal publishes. If your research is applied target or journal that publishes applied science, it's clinical, target a clinical journal. If it's basic research, target a journal that publishes basic research, etc. The journal's audience. Will researchers in related fields be interested in this study? If so, a journal that covers a broad range of topics may be the best. If only researchers in your field are likely to want to read your study, then a field-specific journal would be best. Also consider the types of article the journal publishes. If you are looking to publish a review, case study, or theorem, ensure that your target journal accepts these types of manuscript. The reputation of the journal. A journal's impact factor is one measure of its reputation, but not always the most important. You should consider the prestige of the authors that publish in the journal and whether your research is of a similar level. What are your personal requirements? Does the journal usually publish article quickly? Is the time of publication is important to you? When looking for suitable journals in which to publish your own result, start with what you have read. You should already be familiar with published studies that are similar to yours. Which journals were these studies published? The same journals may be appropriate for your manuscript, so make a list of them. Also, when you have a list of potential target journals, visit and read the website of these journals. Every journal should have a page that provides submission guidelines, including formatting and on many of the factors listed above. Journals on your list that are not a match of your manuscript based on the factors listed, they should be eliminated from consideration. Among the remaining journal, it's likely that one or more will stand out as a very good candidate. Consider if any additional experiments will give you a better chance of achieving publication in your top choice. If you are in a hurry to publish, consider which of the remaining journals offer a rapid publication. If none do, consider which has the highest publication frequency. If your main goal is to reach as many readers as possible, then strongly consider candidate journal that provide an open access option. Open access allows anyone to read your article free of charge online, which can make your article more likely to be read and cited. When you have chosen the journal, you think is the best for your study and your goal, it's usually a good idea also to identify your second and third choice journal, just to have a backup plan. That way, if your paper is rejected from your first choice journal, then you quickly submit to your second choice journal. And then transfers. If you have different choices of journal published by this website, for example, BMC, you should submit your first choice journal for consideration. If the editor decides that your manuscript is unsuitable, you can ask the editor about transferring your manuscript to another journal published by the same institution. This transfer process means you do not have to upload your manuscript file and detail more than once. When there is a second choice journal that you like at the same publisher, the manuscript and often the reviews can be transferred on your behalf. This can save you time, reviewers and editors, for you and reviewers and editors. However, you must never submit the same manuscript to more than one journal at the same time. And then let's talk about authorship. Authorship provides credits for researchers' contribution to a study and carries accountability. Authors are expected to fulfill the criteria cited here. I will send the link in the chat later. Each author is expected to have made a substantial contribution to the conception or the design of the work, or the acquisition, analysis, or interpretation of data, or even the creation of new software used in work, or have drafted the work substantially, revised it. And to have the approved submitted version and substantially modified version that involves the author's contribution to study. To have agreed both to be personally accountable for the author's own contribution and to ensure that the questions related to the accuracy of, or integrity of any part of the work, even ones which the author was not personally involved, are appropriately investigated, resolved, and their resolution documented in the literature. BMC General, for example, they encourage collaboration with colleagues in the location where the research is conducted and expect their inclusion and co-authors where they fulfill all authorship criteria described above. Contributors who do not meet the criteria for authorship should be listed in the acknowledgement section. Authors wishing to make changes to authorship will be asked to complete certain authorship change format. Please be sure to do that before acceptance of the manuscript. Okay, corresponding authors, sorry if the typing is too small. Corresponding authors are responsible for ensuring that all listed authors are approved a manuscript above, before submission, including the names, the order of the authors, and that the authors receive the submission and all substantive correspondence with editors, as well as full reviews, verifying the data, figures, and material, and code, even those developed or provided by other authors. They comply with the transparency and reproducibility standard of both field and journal. Corresponding authors should also indicate whether the authors on earlier version have been removed or new authors added and why. It's incumbent to the corresponding author to ensure that all authors have certified the author list, contribution, description, that all authors who deserve to be credited of the manuscript are indeed credited. Any potential authorship dispute brought to the editor's attention will be handled by COPE guidelines. There is specific guidelines for that also. Acknowledgement. For acknowledgement, all contributors who do not meet the criteria for authorship, they should be listed in an acknowledgement section. Example of those who might be acknowledged include a person who provided purely technical help or writing assistance, or a department chair who provided only general support. Third-party submissions are all manuscripts must be submitted by an author and may not be submitted by a third party. Then let's come to structuring your manuscript. So detailing the structure of manuscripts published in PMC journals, for example, can be found in instruction for authors in each journal. The standard structure of the body of the research articles are usually background, methods, result, discussion part, conclusion. The article structure gives a logical flow to the content, makes journal manuscript predictable and easy to read, and provide a map so that readers can quickly find content of interest in any manuscript. Remind authors what content should be included, but although the sections of the journal manuscript are published in the order title, abstract, background, method, result, discussion, and conclusion, this is not the best order for writing the section of manuscript. One strategy is to write your manuscript in the following order. First, write the material and method, results. This can be written first as you're doing your experiment and collecting the result, the introduction, discussion, and conclusion. And then write these sections next, so you can have, once you decide your target journal, the title and abstract. Write your title and abstract based on all the other sections. And then following this order will help you write a logical and consistent manuscript and use the different section of manuscript to tell a story about your research and its implication. Reporting guidelines. It's important that your manuscript gives a clear and complete account of the research that you have done. Well-reported research is more useful. Complete reporting allows editors, peer reviewers, and readers to understand what you did and how. Poorly reported research can distort the literature, lead to research that cannot be replicated or used in future meta-analysis or systemic reviews. And you should be also able to make sure that your manuscript is written in a way that the readers know exactly what you did and could repeat your study if they wanted to with no additional information. It's particularly important that you give enough information in the method section of your manuscript. To help with reporting your research, these are reporting guidelines available for many different study design. These contain checklists of minimum points that you should cover on your manuscript. You should use these guidelines when you are preparing and writing your manuscript. And you may also require to provide a completed version of the checklist when you submit your manuscript. The equator is enhancing the quality and transparency of health research. It's a network it's a international network that has initiatives that aims to improve the quality of research publication. It provides a comprehensive list of reporting guidelines and other material to help improve reporting. A list full of the reporting guidelines endorsed is also, I'm going to link it at the end of the presentation. Okay, usually for randomized controlled trials, we have CONSORT. For systemic reviews, we have PRISMA, that it's a guideline that we have to follow. Some of you may be already familiar with it and been using it. Observational studies, you use STROBE. Case report, you use CARE. Qualitative research, you use CORC. And preclinical animal studies, you use ARRIVE. Peer reviewers may be asked to use these checklists when assessing your manuscript. If you follow these guidelines, editors and peer reviewers will be able to assess your manuscript better, as they will more easily understand what you did. It may also mean that they ask you for fewer revisions. Now let's come to writing your title and abstract. The title and abstract are most visible parts of your article. During peer review, the title and abstract are used when you invite reviewers. Invited reviewers are asked to decide whether they wish to review the manuscript on the basis of the title and abstract alone. If and when the manuscript is published, more people will read the title and abstract than the whole article. In fact, many people will only read the title and abstract, and many only try to read them once. It's thus important to catch the reader's attention by making the title and abstract as concise, accurate, and readable. Most people rely on electronic search engines to find articles. Usually they search through databases that contain only the title, author list, and abstract of articles, excluding any keyword attached to the article by its authors. This is in this case, for example, the National Library of Medicine database, including medicine and PubMed. It's therefore important to include the title and or abstract, the words that potential readers of the article are likely to use during search. If you want to make sure that your article is found as related article in PubMed search, for example, Please bear in mind that the algorithm used in this functionality gives more weight or less weight, more weight to less common terms, words used more frequently within a document, and terms in the title. So the key to ensuring your article will be found, the title. The title is an essential way to bring the article to potential readers' attention, especially in those cases where the database being searched does not include the abstract of the article. The title must therefore be accurate, informative, and complete as possible. Some tips on the title. So be as descriptive as possible. Use specific rather than general terms. For instance, you say use or include a specific drug name rather than just the class of the drug. Use simple word order and common, like juvenile delinquency is more commonly used than delinquency amongst juveniles. Avoid using abbreviation that could have different meaning in different fields. Avoid using acronyms and any initialism, like CA for calcium could be mistaken for CA for, which means cancer also. Write scientific names in full, like Escherichia coli, say Escherichia coli, not E. coli. Refer to chemicals by their name or generic name instead of their formulas, and avoid the use of Roman numerals in title as they can be interpreted differently. For instance, part 4 or part 3 could be mistaken for factor 3. And now let's come to selecting the most important information in abstract. The abstract must outline the most important aspect of the study while providing only a limited amount of detail on its background, methodology, and result. Authors need to critically assess the different aspect of the manuscript and choose those that are sufficiently important to deserve inclusion of the abstract. Once the abstract is ready, it can be helpful to ask a colleague who is not involved in the research to go through it to ensure that the descriptions are clear. After the manuscript is written, the author should go back to the abstract to check if that agrees with the content of the final manuscript. The structure of the abstract should have structure format. This serves several purposes. It helps authors summarize the different aspects of their not sure. This abstract structure varies between journals and between types of article. Authors should check the abstract for their manuscript is consistent with the requirements of the article type and journal to which the manuscript will be submitted. The abstract of manuscript is submitted to the biology journal of the PMC, for example, should be structured background, result, conclusion, and method. And then there is also specific details for each type of research or subspecialty. There is a different format for it that you need to look at the journal you're going to be submitting to beforehand. So let's talk about some tips on writing abstract. You check the abstract length. Abstract should not exceed the 350 words. Abstract that are too long, they lose their function as summaries of the full article, and the excess words may be omitted by some indexing service. Include synonym for words and concepts that are in the title. So if referring to stillbirth in the title, mention perinatal death in the abstract if appropriate. As in the title, use simple words and common word combination. Make sure the salient points in the manuscript are included, but be consistent, and the abstract should also reflect those points covered in the manuscript. Minimize the use of abbreviation, and avoid citing references. Okay, next is background. The background should provide readers with the information needed to understand your study and the reasons why you conducted your experiment. The background should answer the question, what question and problem did you study? While writing the background, make sure the citations are well-balanced, current, and relevant. Well-balanced if experiments have found conflicting results, for example, on a question, Have you cited studies with both kind of results? Every field is different, so you should aim to cite reference that are not more than 10 years old, if possible. Relevant, this is the most important requirement. The studies that you cite should be strongly related to your research question, and do not write a literature review in your background, but do cite reviews where readers can find more information if they want to. Once you have provided the background material and started the problem or question for your study, tell the reader the purpose of your study. Usually the readers or the reason is to fill a gap in the knowledge or to answer a previously unanswered question. For example, if a drug is known to work well in one population, but has never been tested in a different population, the purpose of the study could be to test the efficacy and safety of a drug in a second population, for example. The final thing to include in the end of your background is a clear and exact statement of your study aim. You might also explain very briefly how you conducted your study. And then coming to the results part, some journals may allow results and discussion to be combined. The results and discussion section may be broken into subsection with short informative headings. For further details, you can check also, as we said, the instruction of author page for your relevant journal. As in method section, you use subheading to separate the result of different experiments. The results should be presented in a logical order. In general, this will be in order of importance, not necessarily the order in which the experiments were performed. Use the past tense to describe your result. However, refer to figures and tables in present tense. Sorry. Do not duplicate your data among figures, tablets, tables, and text. A common mistake is to restate much of the data from a table in the text and manuscript. Instead, you use the text to summarize what the readers will find in the table, or mention one or two of the most important data points. It's usually much easier to read data in a table than in a text. Include the result of statistical analysis in a text, usually by providing p-values wherever statistical significant difference are described. For data presentation, let's talk about contents. Figures, tables, and other display items are often the quickest way to communicate large amounts of complex information. Many readers will only look at your display items, for example, without reading the main text of your manuscript. Therefore, you have to choose a design of your figure and tables very carefully so your manuscript communication wells with the readers. Display items are also important for attracting readers to your work. Attractive display item will hold the interest of readers and compel them to take time to understand the figure. Finally, high quality display items give your work professional appearance. Readers will assume that a professional looking manuscript contains professionally done science. Thus, readers will be more likely to believe your result and your interpretation of this result. Let's talk a little bit about illustration and figures. This section, for example, the BMC Journal publishes article in typesets, final PDF version and full text web version. In the author PDF figure, this is included sequentially at the end of the article, one to a page. Figures in full text web version of an article are linked directly from the text each time they are mentioned and open in a new window. If the typeset PDF figures are placed appropriately within the text, as close as possible to their first mention in the text. Preparing your figure files for submission. Illustrations should be provided as separate files, not embedded in the manuscript itself. Each figure of a manuscript should be submitted as a single file. Tables should not be submitted as figures, but they should be included in the main manuscript file. This is an example of the appropriate pictures or figures that are acceptable. Multi-panel figures like that has multiple, A and B, for example, should be submitted as single composite file that contains all parts of the figure. Here also is another appropriate and inappropriate way to put your figures. The title, the legend should be provided in the main manuscript, not in the graphic file itself. Also, figures should be numbered in order. They are first mentioned in the text and uploaded in this order, and they should be uploaded in the correct orientation. Individual figure file should not exceed 10 megabytes. If suitable format is chosen, this file size is adequate for extremely high quality figures. Please note that it's the responsibility of the author or authors to obtain permission from the copyright holder to reproduce these figures or table that have previously been published elsewhere. In order for all figures to be open access, authors must have permission from the right holders if they wish to include images that have been published elsewhere to access a journal. Also, there is a detailed guideline for every type of figures that you can table that you can check before you include such data. These are some useful software that you can use to edit your figures. We have Adobe Photoshop. I'm sure everyone is familiar with it, Graphic Converter, and PaintShop Pro. Next, my colleague, Dr. Mayra will take it from here. I know this is a heavy subject, but it's really important because it will help you. Once you understand it, it will help you generate more manuscript easily,
Hello, everybody. My name is Mayra. Thank you, Doctor, for your great presentation. I hope you guys understand me. I'm a little bit sick, but I'm going to try my best to explain you guys. In file formats, these are the files that are acceptable for the Biomed Central journal. We can present it as a EPS, encapsulate post transcript. It can be used for image productions by vector drawing applications such as Adobe Illustrator or Corel Drawer. It is important that images should be cropped using the same software as we use to create it, and refer to manuscript documentation. Then other format that we have is PDF. This is an excellent and modern image format, which can contain both vectors of bitmap elements. To ensure the quality of the use of PDF, it is vital to choose the right setting for when you're creating the PDF. Whenever using Adobe Acrobat or other PDF creations, authors should use and choose the appropriate option to create a high resolution PDF suitable for your printer. Other format is to use Doc, Microsoft Word. Word is suitable for choice for submitting figures containing both vectors and bitmap elements for authors who do not have access to a specialized drawing package. Excel charts can be uploaded by embedding them with the Word files. Then we have PowerPoint that we all know that is another good option for submitting figures containing both vectors and bitmap elements for authors who do not have access to a specialized drawing package. Then we have this little more complex or sophisticated, like the tag image file format. It is suitable for photographic scanning, image, etc. And it supports lossless compression, and which is work especially well for flat color image, such as line art or screenshots. Then we have the Joint Photographic Expert Group, and this is great to maintain the small files in size, and some information in the image is discarded, and this is more high quality, the image, and maintain the low size. Then we have the PNG, that is Portable Networking Graphic. This is a modern bitmap format and is suitable for photographic and scanning image. Then we have a little bit more advanced, there's the BMP bitmap It is a Microsoft bitmap format that is sustainable for photographic and scanning image, but is less standard and less compact than the other three that I mentioned before. Then we have the CDX that is then shot in draft, and it is the file format for saving chemical reactions, preparing using short draft. And then the last one, the TGF, it is a file format for saving chemical reactions. Next slide, please. Then in additional file formats, when we're creating our manuscript, we have to mention that additional files we can put like animations and movie. Animations can be produced with like special programs like Shockwave Flash or formats, or converted to videos and formats. Additional files are those that contain additional information which support or expand upon items referent to the main manuscript. Additional files will be linked to the final publishing articles in exactly the same form you supply them, but it will not display with the article in this format. It is important that we insert the reference where we found them, the file name, the format that we're using, the title of the data, and the description. In additional files, we can use audio, chemicals, structures, computational models, genetic database, or geospatial data. For each and every one, there is like specifications, but these are the main additional file formats that we will use. Next slide, please. Okay, then we have methods. Usually, when we're writing our methods, we should use subheadings to separate different methodologies. Describe what you did in the past tense. This is important. Describe the new methods is enough detail to another researcher can reproduce your experiment. Describe previously published methods briefly and simply cite a reference where readers can find more detail. Accurately describe any modification that you have made to establish methods. State all statistical tests and parameters. Okay, next one, please. This is important. The trial registration. The trial registration creates a public record of all clinical trials that researchers are planning and what they intend to do. For example, which interventions they will be testing, the competitors they will use, or what outcomes they will be measured. See the World Health Organization trial registration. Oh, no, the other slide. See the World Health Trial Register set database for limited use of the amount of data that you should include for the trial be considered fully. A clinical trial is any study which meets the World Health Organization definition. And this definition is any research study that prospectively assigns humans as participants or groups of humans to one or more health-related interventions to evaluate the effects of health outcomes. It will be considered a study. This is we should register. And in what journals we register? We register in the ICMGE website, primary registrations for the World Health Organization network, clinicaltrials.gov.com. And yeah, then if we're doing a systemic review, it is important in systemic reviews. If you're carrying review, it's also good to practice to register in Prosper. This is the page to register systemic review. It is currently the only public register for systemic reviews. As with clinical trials, you should include the registration number in your abstract when you write your manuscript. Prosper do not accept retrospective registration. Next slide. Then, when we're writing our discussion and conclusion, it is important to express what we are trying to, what is the point of this study, and we will conclude. In other words, the majority of the discussion and conclusion section should be an interpretation of the result, what we should put. Discuss your conclusions in order of most to least important. Compare your results with those from other studies. Are they consistent? If no, discuss possible reasons for difference. Mention any inconclusive results and explain them as best as you can. You may suggest additional experiments need to clarify your results. Briefly describe the limitations of your study to show reviewers and readers that you have considered the study weakness. Next. Discuss what your results may mean for research in the same file as you and researchers in other files as general public. How you can find this applicable. State how your results extend in the findings or previous studies, and at the end, find if your findings are preliminary, suggest future studies that need to be carried out. At the end of your discussion and conclusion, state your main conclusion once again. Next page, next slide. Then we are going to speak about reference, and this is a topic that we all, it is always a little bit of a nightmare. The importance of this is that reference serve the main purpose in scientific manuscript. They establish where the ideas came from, give evidence for claims, connect readers to other researchers, provide context for your work, and show that there is an interest in this file of research. It is important of using a reference management like professionals, like EndNote, RefWorks, Zotero, Mendeley, will help you to keep track of the publications that you have reviewed. This tool also make it easy to format, add, and remove reference in your manuscript. Because reference have an important, because reference have an important role in many parts of the manuscript, failure to successfully cite other work can reduce the chances of being published. Every statement of a fact or description of previous findings requires supporting reference. Next. Then overcoming language barriers. And here it is a big one for us, where many of us are not from this country. Entonces, it is important to always try to keep our writing concise, clear, conscious, and accurate. When we write a manuscript, be as brief as possible without omitting any essential details. Keep it simple. Simple language is usually clear. It's more precise and consists of complex language. You will offer the best description of something that is sophisticated. Using unnecessary complicated language will confuse the reader and weaken your message. It is important that we keep that ways to keep our manuscript clear and concise is only one idea per sentence. Use the active voice, not passive voice when it's possible. Delete unnecessary and vague words and replace them with more specific words. Avoid circular sentence and redundance. And one of the really important tool and is really useful, for example, professional language edition service, we have a Purdue online writing labs. It is a fantastic writing resource and it has many more examples of how to make a writing concise. We can use other professional service, like for example, Natural Research Editing Service, American Journal Experts. These are one of the professionals. Then it is important when we write, for example, the comparisons. We have to be really accurate in how we use it, like between, among, like, with, that, and do not repeat them. Try to reduce to repeat them as much as we can. Then we have use the proper nouns. It helps us to organize and to keep the study in person and location in the proper way. Then the articles, it is important to use the right articles. The numbers used respectively in numbers and units. The spelling, it is important, the spelling, because we are published like in higher education, advanced in science. We have to use the exact punctuation and spelling, and that will help. It will power our manuscript and our studies. Next slide, please. These are professional language editing service. As I told you, these are some that we can find. The Natural Research Editing Service of American Journal and Experts are some of the ones that you guys can use. And next slide. We all carry out this information from the Biomed Central, and you can find all the different reference how to write well your manuscript. Now I'm gonna leave the presentation to Dr. Hina. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mayra. So let me share my screen. Just one second. Okay, are you able to see?
Yes, we do. We see it.
Yes, we can see.
Okay, so next is publication ethics and data manipulation. So there are publication ethics rules in place to ensure the high quality scientific publications, public faith in scientific findings, and the people, they are given the proper credit for their ideas. So data manipulation and fabrication. So it basically implies that the researcher did not conduct a study, but instead made up the data. So data fabrication occurs when the researcher conduct an experiment, and after that he alters some of the data. And both of these tactics generate public distrust in the scientist. So that's why they're not. So next is plagiarism. Plagiarism is basically taking someone else's ideas or efforts without giving them credit, which is unfair and dishonesty. So copying even one sentence from another person's manuscripts or one of your own that has already been published without the paper citation, it is considered as plagiarism, instead using your own words. So redundant or multiple publications. So submitting the same manuscript to more than one journal at the same time is unethical. So this wastes the time of editors and peer reviewers, and it can harm the reputation of the journals if published in multiple places. So this means that numerous articles based on the same experiment will be published at different times. So it may cause readers to pay less attention to your own manuscripts. So what is interference or competing interest? So basically, the editor, reviewers, and the future readers, they must be aware of any competing interest you and your co-authors may have in your manuscript's works. So editors and reviewers, they must state competing interest or be disqualified from the peer review process. Declaring a competing interest won't prevent publication. So it helps the editor to evaluate your work and invite impartial reviewers. Editors may also ask for competing interest information. So what are the conflicting interests? So basically, when author's interpretation or a presentation of the data is influenced by a personal or financial ties to the other person or organizations, so they have a competing interest. Authors should state any financial and non-financial conflicting interests that could embarrass them after publication. Pharmaceutical companies and other commercial sponsors of clinical trials should report competing interests. Pharmaceutical business should also follow the good publication practice principles to ensure the responsible and ethical publication. The guidelines applies to freelance writers, contract research groups, and communication companies. So, economic conflicts. The competing financial interest includes receiving reimbursement fees, financing, or compensation from an organization that may profit or lose from the article's publication. Holding stocks or share in company that could profit or loss from the article's publication, and holding or seeking manuscript-related patents, receiving reimbursement, fees, financing, or salary from a patent holding or a patent applying entity. Non-monetary conflicts, political, personal, religious, ideological, scholarly, and intellectual competing interests are non-financial. So hidden conflicts. So if you don't declare any competing interests, the editor, reviewers, or the readers may find them. It could delay peer review or lead to rejection. So if a hidden conflict interest is discovered after publication, your piece may need to be retracted. Then there comes the cover letter. So a good cover letter serves the editor on your manuscripts. So sending a journal editor a paper isn't enough. So check the journal author instruction for the cover letter requirement, that is disclosures, statements, potential reviewers. Then explain why the editor should publish your manuscripts. So please in the cover letter, you should include that these wordings that please find and close manuscript titles by the first author name, et al., which would like to publish in the name of the journal. So you would like to write in this manner. So this is the first report. Our findings may interest with the general name. And the cover letter must also include these sentences that we confirm that this manuscript hasn't been published or submitted elsewhere. We will wait for your call, and all authors have approved the work for this manuscript. So checklist. So before submitting, double check your manuscript and see whether it can be improved or not. The manuscript follows the guidelines. All files are correct format, resolution and size, correct spelling and grammar. You must have author information. You should have finished online journal submission registration, and your cover letter is convincing. Then peer review. Peer review evaluates a manuscript quality before publication. So independent researchers analyze the submitted manuscripts for originality, validity, and significance to help editors decide if a manuscript should be published or not. And how it works that a paper submitted to a journal is evaluated for the submission criteria. If so, the editorial team will identify the potential peer reviewers to peer review the work and give recommendations. Then peer review types. There are 4 peer review types: single blind, double blind, open peer. So single blind reviewers know the author name, but author doesn't know unless the reviewer signs the report. For double blind, the reviewers and authors don't know each other's identities. Open peer, writers and reviewers know each other, and if the submission is accepted, the reviewer report and author's response, they are published together. And authors don't know who reviewed their manuscripts unless the reviewer signs the report. And if the work is accepted, the anonymous reviewer reports and author response are published together. And peer reviewers varies by journal. A journal's about Areej will list its peer review procedures. Startup after publishing. So after your manuscript is accepted and it's published, then after that, you should socialize your work. Share your content with your Twitter, Facebook, Google, and other social media followers. Use relevant hashtags and tag co-authors or department colleagues to boost the sharing. Learn how to make your study on the social media. So first, you should update your profile, add article details and link to your LinkedIn or department profiles to highlight your professional accomplishments and experience. Create a loop profile and connect it to your paper. Research sharing platforms. Join ResearchGate, Mendeley, academia.edu, site you like, or Loop, or add your article link to your current profile. Review and improve your Google Scholar profile. Then blogging, it can also help you convey your study to a wider audience. If you have a blog or want to start one, try blogging about your piece. So YouTube video sharing is also becoming more popular. Creating a short movie outlining your paper's scope and significant findings, or explain your study and techniques. And shareable, discoverable research. So if possible, deposit your articles, research data in community organized repositories Otherwise, use general science repository. By sharing your research data, you can promote your published work, make it more discoverable, and increase citations. And create an Areej author ID. So Areej gives researchers a durable digital identifier. So after registering over there, add your article to your profile. Promoting research on social media. So social media can also promote your work and engage your research community. When using social media professionally, following things should be kept in mind. So ample time. So it's ongoing. So an abundant profile can reflect poorly on your timeline of your investigation. Use the best channel. Before setting up your profile, investigate if peers in your research area, they are active, and if the relevant university departments or organizations have profiles over there. And will you write and curate regularly? So create audience loyalty and trust. Continually provide your perspective and expertise. This include writing new posts and sharing or commenting on others. This gives your followers relevant information and demonstrates you are active online. Building a long-term relationship with your followers takes time and energy, so consider when to start. And once you have started, then follow notable personalities, publishers, and organizations in your field to see trending topics, share materials, and weigh. Introduce your published work with an intriguing query or finding to attract your audience curiosity. Giving updates on your research projects and progress and challenges. Tag people who might find your content interesting using relevant hashtags. This includes co-authors, departmental colleagues, institutional feeds, and field associations. Hashtagify.me lets you search for relevant hashtag and view related hashtags weighted by the popularity and associations. So photos and video add aesthetic appeals to your feed and encourage sharing. Then communicating research for blogs. So scientific blogs are an excellent area to share discoveries, voice thoughts on the latest news, and highlight research questions. Blog stimulate conversation, foster community, and increases reach of fascinating research to other discipline and general audience. So what makes an article a good fit for the blog? So when writing a blog post about your own study, consider the following points. Would outsider find the article interesting? Is the article interesting? Does it have a unique research topic or method? Has the article a figure or a diagram? And does it align with a big ongoing endeavor, such as SDGs, awareness days, or worldwide campaigns? So the top tips for engaging readers. So blogs should be written such that non-experts may understand them. Some tips include audience first. So imagine conveying your research story to someone who knows what you do. Jargon-free, when possible, use everyday language. Metaphors help visualize the complex ideas. Then personalize your research. Consider what made you interested in studying a specific phenomena, if you tried many ways before finding one that succeeded, and if the results surprised you. Then don't dwell on specifics. Reader can read about your research and your article. The blog shouldn't be a summary of the journal article, but rather it highlights your significant discoveries. So link to trusted resources for more information. Then bibliography, highlight the study you publish in the journal, but also have additional relevant publication. So feel free to include references and links to past articles and other relevant publication to give the reader more context. Then visualize. Visuals make your blog more approachable. In copyright and license, author maintain copyright on open access articles. And they also author license to publish the article as the original publisher. Any third party may use the article as long as the original author citation information and publications are cited. Creative Commons Attribution License 4 formalize these and other publishing terms. The Creative Commons CC 01 public domain dedication waiver applies to all open access data. So when an author can be the copyright holder, for example, US government or Commonwealth workers, modest changes may be needed. In such circumstances, the copyright lines and license statement, it will be changed to 2016 Crown Right Copyright Authors that need a variation should tell the publisher when submitting their article. And after publication, copyright lines, they cannot be changed. So this is the reference we all get from there. And these are about the manuscript writing. So this is our presentation. Now I hand it over to just one sec, Dr. Sitana and Dr. Tayseer for their presentation. Thank you so much, guys. Dr. Sitana.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we
Yeah.
can hear you.
Next should be me and Tayseer. Tayseer should start the presentation. I will share my screen.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, presenter, for the previous presentations. Thank you for attending.
Hello.
Hello? Yes, can you hear me?
Tayseer,
Yes?
can you start?
Yes. Could you share this the screen? I see you're sharing the screen, Sitana. Could you just...
Yeah. Wait a minute. I will try to start this from the beginning.
Mhm. Okay, so our presentation today is going to be about the journal club and how to critique a research article in a journal club. The presenter are going to be myself, Tayseer, and Dr. Sitana. Next. So in this presentation, we're going to be talking about what is journal club and what are the objectives of a journal club. And when we are choosing an article to discuss in a journal club, what are the things that we need to pay attention to and how we actually going to critique an article.
Can I interrupt just Sitana, if you can hit on the slideshow on the upper right side, up to the right, there is a slideshow. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, much better. Thank you, Dr. Nader. Okay, so how to decide if the research article is can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So how to decide if the journal article is if an article is worth reading, and how are we going to actually use it and critique it in a journal club? So in this part, we need to pay attention to 3 questions. The first question is, how interesting is the title? And the second question is the study relevant? And that question, we're gonna find it in the abstract. And the third one is we're gonna go to the methods and have a skim through the methods and see is the study valid. So if we answer yes to 2 of those questions, we should go ahead and read the article. So in the abstract, the article has sections as my previous presenter talked about. We have the title, the abstract, keywords, introduction, material methods, results, discussion, conclusion, and references. So in the title is a one line that describes the study. And in this part, we want to see how specific is the title and what words, the words that have been used, does it really describe the article itself? And that is going to come out from the research questions. So how do we formulate a research question? In this, we use something called PICO or PICO-T, which is, does the study describe a population? What intervention has been used? And was it compared like to, like, do we have a control group or not in the study? And what are the outcomes that they presented in the article and the time frame? Also, the study might come up with secondary questions. Those questions come up after the first question, like the actual objective or the first question of the research was answered. In the abstract, abstract is a brief and yet complete description of the study in a very short paragraph. And in this, we're going to see if this article actually highlights and shows the key finding of the study. Did they describe the background? Did they talk about the methodology? What are the results that they came about? And what is the conclusion they formulated? And what are the keywords that they use in the mesh? We go ahead and look at the introduction, and in the introduction should answer the nature and the magnitude of the problem. Did this article talk about what is actually known about the problem and what are the gaps in the existing knowledge about this problem or the question of the research? Did they provide a justification to the study? And were they very specific about their objectives? It could be a primary objective or a secondary objective of the study. And what is the hypothesis behind it? In the materials, we're going to see the material methods. What was the setting of did they describe the setting of the study? What was the time or period for the study? What kind of study design they use? Was it like a randomized controlled trial or like case control, cross-sectional study? What was the design? What tools they use for the study? And did they specifically talk about the population? And what were the inclusions and the exclusion criteria for the study? And was the sample size specifically described? What sampling they use, what randomizations and the statistics they use in the study. In the methods, so we are going to see if the internal, like, does they describe the internal validity or external validity? And those two, the internal validity is just the extent to which the results are true to the population they study. And in this part, we're gonna check the tools they use. Were there any biases? Is there any error to the study? And we're gonna check the statistic and analysis and see, like, is this actually true for the study they're talking about? And then we also check for the external validity, and we see this study, is it generalizable? Is it applicable? Can we use this study and apply it to the general population? For the methods, also there is a checklist that are standardized and various and used in the study design. So you want to check that your study is actually following these checklists, and just to know that, is it going to be accepted? Is your research very strong to describe your questions? And also, so you're going to follow this checklist. There is a website that I don't know if I can share. Let me see. Here, 1 second. I'm trying to share this website. It's really good tool that shows how to use the study checklist and reporting guidelines to present your study. So if you have a question that you want to answer in the study, you're going to go to this website and see and check the checklist. Are you actually answering what is in the checklist? Okay, I'm sorry, I can't find the website, but I will definitely share it in the screen. I will share it in the chat later on. So these checklists are standardized and used in all the research, specifically clinical research study. So when you go to this website, you will find what what kind of a study design you use, and each study design had its own checklist to follow, and also its report guidelines. Next, Dr. Sitana is going to continue the study. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tayseer. I will continue from here, presenting how to critique a research from the results. Then when we start to read the result, what we want to ask ourselves about is whether the objectives are answered or not. In the beginning, the researcher put as some objective why he did that research. And then when we reach the result, we should search for, is that objective answered or still yet? And also we will look for the presentation of data, descriptive statistic and inferential statistic, and does the researcher apply them correctly. For example, the descriptive statistic will be who was in the study, the population of the study, the number of them, the mean, the median, and the inferential statistic will be the comparison between two groups, the relative rate and odd ratio, and other things that compare two groups together. Does the researcher has statistic, and does he has them correctly, presenting them correctly in the research or not? And also, most of the research will have figures inside it, like tables, figures, and others graphs. These figures should be self-explanatory. It shouldn't be very complicated or difficult to read. Should be self-explanatory and should be labeled rightly. And other things, we will look at the statistical test. Does the researcher use the statistical test correctly or not? And at the end of the result, the researcher reach a result. Is that result is significant for us, or it is insignificant and doesn't have any value? Then next thing, we will go to the discussion. In the discussion, firstly, the researcher should interpret his own result alone, and after that, compare the result with other studies, similar studies. Is that present in the discussion part of the research or not? Then the next question will be, is there any bias or any confounder in the study? If there is a huge bias or some significant bias, that research will be invaluable to be read or to be cited after that. And is there any limitation for the study? And does the researcher mention that limitation in his paper or not? And at the end, what's the future direction of this study? Does the researcher put some expectation for the next research after him or not? At the end, we will go to the conclusion. And in the conclusion, the researcher should mention the answer for his objective. And after the answer of the objective, so what? Is this answer significant for the research or not? Then at the end, Last thing we will look at is the referencing. Firstly, the research should has a good referencing and good referencing style, and all the referencing style should be the same. There should be no referencing mismatch inside the research. And with this, we will be finishing the critique of a research article. Any question till here? I will hand over to my colleague Ragda to start the last session is RTC.
Hello everyone, this is Ragda. Can you hear me good?
Yes, you can hear you, Ragda.
All right, then thank you the participants for introducing me, and I will need you to stop sharing your screen so I'll be able to share mine. Thank you. Right, give me one moment. You guys can see my screen now?
Yes, we can see your screen, Ragda.
All right, now I'm going to start to present the randomized control trial. It's an experimental way. So what I mean, it's a trial in which subjects are randomly assigned to one or two groups. One group, the experimental group, which has received the intervention, whether the intervention was a drug, whether it was a procedure, whether it was service that's being tested, and the other group, we call it the control group, received the alternative treatment. It could be a placebo or the standard treatment. Then we're gonna follow these subjects, and the results and analysis of the trial are used to assess the effectiveness of that intervention, with the extent to which the procedure or the treatment does patient more good or harm. Here we'll have it shows. One group is the experimental group, and the other one is a control group. We have a feature of well-designed RCT. I'm gonna speak about each feature and then elaborate more. The first feature, the sample to be studied will be appropriate to the hypothesis being tested, so that any results are appropriately generalizable. We have to have our inclusion and exclusion criteria to determine who will be studied from within the accessible population. Like, you cannot get, if you want to study about the prosthetic leg, you cannot bring someone who doesn't have an amputated leg. Then, the study will recruit sufficient patients to allow it to have a high probability of detecting a clinical important difference between the treatment if a difference truly exists. That's the arrow type B. The power, which means the sample size. The second feature is there will be effective or concealed randomization of the subject to the intervention and control group to eliminate selection bias and minimize confounding variables. The random assignment of subjects into one or two groups is the basis for establishing a causal interpretation for an intervention. We can use the technology, like the computer, to assign people to different. So that's why we assign them randomly. Here it shows, like, we have the population. We use the computer to assign people to the standard treatment and the other people for the experimental or the new treatment or procedure. All right, the third feature, the subject and the investigator should ideally be blinded to the assignment, double blinded. Sometimes that's impossible, so we use a blind third party to measure the outcome, as blinding is achieved by making the intervention and the control at least similar in every respect. Double-blinded randomized study. The volunteer doesn't know what he's getting, and the researcher doesn't know who he's following. The fourth feature, I guess we were the fourth, patients are analyzed within the group to which they were allocated. What that means? If I put the patient in the experimental group and another patient in the control group, let's say the patient goes, I'm bored, I don't want this group, I'm gonna go to the other one. Well, we don't care. Eventually, we're just gonna do them to the first group they were assigned to. So we can have something called intention to treat analysis to keep our randomization. Then we have the analysis focus on testing the research question that essentially led to the trial, like the question or the research or the hypothesis that we put first for our research the analysis should focus on that. So you cannot just like, if you found something important, like you found it by chance, you're gonna forget about your research title and be like, oh, I'm gonna focus on that one now. You have to be committed to your research hypothesis. Here, like animation, there's this person asking, what's your treatment? She was like, we don't have one. We just heard the RCT were the gold standard. That's the wrong way. You cannot just do a research blindly without having hypothesis or questions. We have type of randomized trials. We have two main types, the clinical trials and we have the community trial. The clinical trial is by far the more common one and often used to evaluate the efficacy of new drugs against standard treatment or against placebo. But they are also used to evaluate other therapeutic procedures such as new form of surgery, dietary regimes, or exercise programs for person with pre-existing disease. This is the one we all know and the one I will speak more. The community one, the subject is the entire community, rather than an individual patient in the unit of observation. For example, the water fluoridation, now they do that in the US, everywhere they have fluoride in it because they think they see the decay, kids especially. So they evaluated by experimentally assigned entire community to have their public water supplies with the fluorided or not fluorided. And the unit of observation for a community trial may be a town or a city, factory, office, or the school. All persons in the same unit of observation are experimentally exposed to the same intervention. Although it's not certain that all persons in the unit will equally exposed, correct? All right, then we have the RCT designs. We have two kinds of design, the barrel design and the cross-section design. The barrel design, we have person assigned to arm A and the other person to arm B, they never cross. In the barrel, each patient is placed into one treatment arm. A study arm may consist of the study treatment placebo or standard care, and the other one will be the standard the placebo. In a crossover study, every person will be their own control. Like one time I'm going to give you a drug A, and the other time I'm going to give you drug B, and you are going to compress your state in the both times. You're going to give it a period of time. And the cross-section, the crossover study, it has to have a washout period so that there wouldn't be interaction between that two treatments. The bias. The bias is the deviation of the result from the truth due to systemic error in the methodology. It's occurring in two main forms, selection bias. When we speak first about the sample, you have to have a target population, so assign people to group, and that's one of the kind of bias be there that you didn't get a good or acceptable population for your study. Or we're going to have an observer or information bias. It's like when it's not blinded enough, the way of collecting the information, like the questionnaire that has only bias. That's going to deviate the result from the truth. Finally, a well-designed, methodologically sound RCT evaluating an intervention provides strong evidence of a cause-effect relation if one exists. If they are powerful in changing practice to improve patient outcomes, this being the ultimate goal of research and therapeutic effectiveness, while the poorly designed study is dangerous because of their potential to influence practice based on failed methodology. It has to be valid and generalizable. Now there's another issue. The congressman was like, there are other methods that could provide some useful evidence. He was like, no, I don't need useful, I need indisputable. That the RCT is good, as I said, and providing it could be harm, it could be depends on how your method and how you design your study. Here is shows, this is the population, and we randomly assign people to experimental group, other people to control group, and we give them treatment, we follow them, analyze the results, and see if they answer our hypothesis. Thank you so much. Any question, comment, or concern? Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Ragda.
All right, if there's no question, now we're going to go with the last thing is the project update. Dr. Nader, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you all the presenters. Really liked all the presentations, and I hope these are informative ones for the audience and for those who will come and watch the forum later. So I'll just add a few comments on the last topic about randomization. You went with a very good, excellent explanation, and there are some tools that we can use. I'm going to share with you here. one tool. It's like a giga calculator online that you can use for many things, but for randomization, for example, if you have a list, you can randomize this list by team, as Dr. mentioned, team A can take the new medication, the second team can use placebo or the all called standard method of medication, something like that. And there are other uses if you want to add patients sequentially, like the first patient, you can give them a random number and it will decide which group they will get into. And also this one you can use it for like sample size calculator. These are some of the tools that people can use when using the randomization or randomized control studies. It's a very useful method to study your question and answer, and hopefully it will help you when in the future you will join some of the researchers in this field. Thank you so much. So any updates as far as projects you are working on? Or any questions about any of the presentations of today? Please jump in with any questions or raise your hand. So if the hand is here, yeah. Then can you, if you are available, can you just share with us your experience with your team as far as the paper that published recently, or any of the team that published the papers recently in the periods? Can you share your how did you do it?
Yeah. Hello, Dr. Nader. Hello, everyone. Yeah, I published recently is a topic about does vitamin D has effect on diabetes. Yeah, we search the data from PubMed and Google Scholar, and we distribute the work between the team. We did the introduction and like few of the members do the discussion. Yeah, we are submitted to Telegeriatric. At the beginning, they asked us to do some correction. We did it, then submitted again, and it accepted. Take like 2 to 3, about 3 weeks from the first submission to publication.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing.
Nice experience.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your help. Okay, thank you for your help also in this publication.
Yeah, you're welcome. So Tahani and Hafi and also Mohammed Maghdad and his team also published in period. So the process as mentioned in this presentation, that you will work on getting the manuscript, writing the sections in the way that the journal will accept it, or the way they will ask you to do it in the author page of instruction. So Tahani and her team follow the same method and submit it. And sometimes you will get some feedback from the reviewers. They will say, for example, we want you to clarify this, or add this, or go to this section, something like that, or make these changes to make things clear for the readers. And you can agree or disagree with this, but most of the time we agree with the changes, so we make the changes and then send it back to the journal editor and the reviewer. If they are satisfied, they will go ahead with publication. If sometimes they may have additional hints or points that they want us to, so it's going to be back and forth. And finally, when they are fully satisfied, then it it will be published. The time line as far as submitting, getting the reviewer feedback, and then you can make the changes and submit for publication acceptance, and then go ahead. It could be weeks, it could be months. It depends on how fast the reviewer will look at the manuscript and how many edits you need to make in your manuscript and submit it back. So it depends also on the time. Some journals, they are fast. Sometimes it takes longer. So thank you, Hani, for sharing. Any questions? If no questions, any other updates? Can we add the files presented today in the app? So if you go to the app, the main page, down there you will find a file, I think, and you can add your file, submit it, so that other people can look at the presentation, and maybe they can benefit from that. Thank you. So as far as projects, anyone with new ideas or anyone with questions about their project or updates as far as next step? I know Avinash and his group are working on presenting some, they are working on some survey questionnaire, and then we'll present next month in Arizona.
Yes, Dr. Nader, thank you so much. We have sent out all the surveys to the fellows, and we have collected the data. And today we will working on it, and we'll together all the data, and we'll share with you in next week.
Okay,
right?
I'm available if you want to send me after the meeting.
Yes.
Today.
Yeah.
Shoot me an email and we can discuss.
We'll let you know. We'll let you know. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Excellent. Thank you, Khulud. Anyone else want to share or updates? So if no questions, no comments, for next week, I'm going to contact the leader for the next week about the topics and how we can do it efficiently. So I want the team, if they are available, to work on the topics together. So I have one request from all of you. I know in this section now there are few people who have their images or photos on the background. So for the interview session, most time they will ask you to do the video, but just in case there is some technical issue with your camera, the program will default into an image. So for you, instead of putting your name on the screen, it might be a good idea to put an image so that people will at least continue talking to you over the like voice wise, but they have their image or your image in front of them. So to do that, I think you have to log into your, if you are using Zoom, log into your account and add your image in your profile. If you can do that as soon as you can, so that if you have hopefully interview in the coming days, weeks, this part will be already taken care of. You don't have to worry about it. Again, you have to know your resume, your application, CV, and your personal statement. This is very basic for you guys. Any questions? If none, then I will see you next week. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Areej and the team for excellent presentation and the moderation for the Zoom meeting. And
Thank you,
we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Dr. for your
Thank
time.
you so much, Dr. Nader. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for everything, Dr. Nader.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Dr. Nader.
Assalamualaikum.
Nader and everyone.
Assalamualaikum.
Thank you, Dr. Nader.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nader.
Thank you, Dr. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nader.
Thanks. Bye.